Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at my fully XL Skeledirge for the Open Master League. And yeah, today I want to try to test this Pokemon out here, trying to use this Pokemon as a bait basically, or like basically as a lock-on for something like a Xerneas, for something like a Zacian, with the standard moveset of Play Rough as well as Close Combat, as we're going to be able to completely destroy those Pokemon with a unique typing of Fire and Ghost. I already made a video last season about the Chandelure, which has the same typing, and honestly this Pokemon worked out super well, so I was really curious if this Pokemon here, the Skeledirge, is going to be as good as basically the Chandelure back in the day. So today we're going to find that out together, and I have to say, this Pokemon was actually really solid. You only have a CP of 3415, and yes, this is fully XL, but you were actually still able to do so much in the current meta. You're going to see it throughout the video as well. This Pokemon is going to be amazing, and we are going to see right now the opponent going for a Wild Charge. Fine for us, as we can now let the next move go through, and like this, the opponent is going to be double debuffed, which allows me to go into my Dialga, farm them perfectly down here just before they can go for another charge move, and the opponent's Dialga has no chance. Let's take a look at the next opponent coming in. Ho in the lead. This is most likely the worst possible lead that I can face with this team, at least in my opinion, because this Pokemon is a little bit tricky to deal with. I don't really know what is best to do for this Pokemon, because here we're gonna see the Sacred Fire coming through, we see a Draco Meteor coming through, and the opponent has now a Dialga in the back. Great play by them. But if I shield and I get debuffed, I can go for either the Draco Meteor and try to get the shield back, but I'm always going to lose this matchup kinda, so it's not really ideal. But here we're going to now be able to go into our Skeledirge against the opponent's Dialga, allowing us to use a shield here against the incoming Iron Head, which we actually would have been easily able to survive, so that's kinda sad. But I can still go for the Disarming Voice, going to get the knockout against the Dialga, and we can realign our Pokemon, which is going to be amazing, as we now going to see the Zacian coming in. Zacian with the fast move Quick Attack, doing 1 damage per turn here, because like this is not going to do anything against the Ghost type. We're going to be able to force at least some damage onto them, and now they're going to be in range for just a 1 charge move of my Mewtwo, but I still maybe have to catch a charge move eventually onto my Dialga. Depends on what's going to happen here right now. We're going to see the opponent swapping into their Ho-Oh, allowing me to go for a Side Strike before they're going to be able to go for their own charge move. But as you can see, they're going very, very low, and I was able to catch a move here onto my Dialga, which is going to be the Brave Bird, allowing us to farm them down with my Mewtwo. Now we're going to have a ton of energy left, as well as still a shield left. Of course, the opponent as well has still a shield left, but I'm going to be able to now still outspeed the opponent to the next charge move, allowing me to get the knockout and win this game. Skeledirge is coming in clutch in quite a lot of those games, which are coming up as well, and I gained actually a lot of EDO with this team, which is kind of funny because you wouldn't really expect it. But we're going to have now the next opponent again with a Ho-Oh in the lead. I'm fairly certain that Ho is very common right now in the lead. At least I encountered it quite often in this ELO range. So like for the very strong opponents here right now, they definitely use it quite often. I'm actually in a fairly decent ELO range right now, which is kind of cool. So yeah, we're going to see here a Zekrom coming in, which is actually okay for me, as I will be able to still go for the Side Strike and do a ton of damage, and get now a ton of energy with my Dialga, so I don't even mind this one too much. I'm going to be forced to use a shield here though, because yeah, I need to keep my Dialga alive or like healthy, because I don't think really my Skeledirge is going to have the greatest time against the Ho-Oh either. But we're going to see here in the back the Reshiram, which we're going to have to go for a Draco Meteor in order to try to get the final shield. But can Skeledirge still win this game for us? I'm going to have to be very careful about how I'm going to use my energy and where I'm going to use my shields. I'm going to use a shield here right now, and I can still go for a Shadow Ball, which my opponent going to catch onto the Ho-Oh, which is not the worst thing, because as you can see, we still going to need to farm them down anyway, but they still have already a move stored, and yeah, this is going to be a tough one for me, and also a loss for me, as now we're going to have only our Dialga with a few HP left against the Reshiram, which is already having a move here, so that's going to be a good game to the opponent. Next opponent coming up, we're going to have a Dialga in the lead. This is going to be definitely some matchup where we can stay in and just try to go for the Iron Head here after a while. I'm not going to go for the Draco Meteor. I feel like Iron Head is like the safest play to go for. And I know like a lot of people are going to shield this move up here, but as we win CMP, which is going to be nice, we're going to put the opponent now in a perfect range where I can take perfect advantage with my Mewtwo of their health range. Because yes, I'm going to have to use a shield here, but I'm going to get the full farm down against the opponent's Dialga, allowing me to get out of this matchup with 90 energy. And 90 energy Mewtwo is basically impossible to beat. As you're going to see, the opponent going to swap in their Ho-Oh right now, where you can go for 2 Side Strike easily, and I would even reach the next Side Side Strike in time as far as I can see that. So this one does not get the knockout, but we're going to now see the opponent's Giratina in the back. Can we still come back from this? Giratina is going to be a tricky one to deal with for our Skeledirge, because Skeledirge is going to get super effective damage from the fast move, as well as they're most likely running Ancient Power in this current meta, and which they of course do here. So it's going to be a little bit of a trickier one. We have to go for 2 disarming voices. I can still go for 1 more fast move after this one, and we see we're going to be able to survive it, and I can get to the move in time. And I'm fairly certain I would actually even win CMP against the opponent, but they're going to not even care too much about it, as they're going to go ahead, let this move go through, and we can go for the full farm loading against the Ho-Oh. Next opponent coming up, we're going to have the Dragonite against us. This is going to be an interesting matchup, as we're now going to see the MEWeedle, and this is going to be a very fun one here. As you can see, the opponent is actually running a very interesting moveset here, which I didn't expect. They're running Rock Slide, and so now you're going to think, yeah, Rock Slide superpower. This is actually not it, which is going to make this a little bit easier for us, because this is not a Rock Slide. This is a double Iron Bash, and I have no idea why, but they're going to go for another one. And this is totally fine for me, because I can even take this one. I want to go for the charge move there, but I had some lag, so that's kind of why there was another fast move coming through, which doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It literally didn't change anything, so I don't really have to complain too much about it, but this was not intended to be like this. But still, we are going to be able to get the full farm down with our Mewtwo. And as you saw already in the videos, or like the game beforehand, Mewtwo with energy is amazing. But now we're going to be kind of hard-walled here by a Rhyperior, which is going to be a very strong Pokemon in the current meta. But as we're going to see here right now, the opponent can go ahead and go for their Breaking Swipe. Luckily not the superpower, and you see I'm going to keep my shields alive, because I kind of thought my Mewtwo is my most valuable Pokemon, and I'm fairly certain that this is going to one-shot the opponent from this range, which is really nice for me. And now I have 2 shields against the Dragonite of the opponent, as I will be able to use those shields against the opponent's Dragon Claw. Right now they have to go for 3 Dragon Claws, and they will not be able to get there, as I can just go for 2 Side Strikes, which is enough to knock the opponent out here, and it's going to be a very good game again. This team works out so well for whatever reason. Of course, we have a great core of Mewtwo as well as the Dialga, which I already used basically similar in the video with my Chandelure back in the day, like, I don't know, a few months ago, which was basically the team that I just copied and thought, yeah, if this team worked out back in the day, now we're going to have a different Ghost and Fire-type Pokemon, and yes, it still works out super well. Such a solid team. Very, very strong to play. There's not a lot that really can go wrong here. The only real issue, of course, is for this team to encounter something like an Yveltal in the backline. This is going to be a little bit tricky with the Pokemon that you have here right now, but even if you're going to encounter Yveltal, I think on your Skeledirge and you have some energy left, or like some, in general, some advantage, either shield or energy, you're going to be able to just go for the Disarming Voice, which is going to be amazing. Speaking of amazing, again, Mewtwo here, we're able to basically get all the energy and also force a shield from the opponent while even getting the knockout against the Kyogre. I still have a shield advantage here with this, and I can swap out into my Skeledirge, encountering a Mewtwo, and I was so sad here, because the opponent decided to forfeit before I can even go for a Shadow Ball, and I just like to have like those cool matchups where I can just knock them out with that. But here we're going to most likely actually encounter the worst possible Pokemon to face for this team, and I don't know if there's actually a way to deal with Groudon with this team. I honestly would recommend you to swap into your Mewtwo immediately and hope that the opponent stays in, because this would be basically your best option in order to win this game, or like this matchup in general. But as you can see right now, it's going to be a tricky one to deal with for me, especially as they're going to swap in now into their Zacian, where I can still counter them with a Side Strike coming through, which is gonna do a ton of damage against the opponent. But we will now have to take most likely something like a Play Rough here, which is gonna do a decent amount of damage to us, as we can still overfarm by a little bit, which is going to be nice. They might want to use a shield and realign, but they sadly don't, which actually is really bad for me, because I would have liked to see them using a shield, and now it's going to be a tough one to win for us. We're going to still at least have our own Dialga as well as our Skeledirge. Skeledirge is going to get out the Groudon now, and I have to hope that I can reach the Iron Head in time, but sadly the opponent going to get to their move, and now my only play is to farm them all the way down. And this actually works, which I did not expect at all. They died on the charge move, and I am gonna go for the Shadow Ball immediately. Getting the damage onto the opponent's Dialga. Can we farm them down? We cannot. Is this just an Iron Head maybe? It is not, it's a Draco Media. They literally just got to the right move there, and we're going to lose by just a few HP, or like, yeah, basically a few HP onto the opponent's Dialga, which is really, really sad to see. If I actually got to the Shadow Ball, maybe on the Mewtwo, I would have been fine, but I don't think I just got there. I think I would have needed like one more fast move, so that was so unfortunate, but we can move on to the next game. Again, another Dialga in the lead, and again, you're going to see me letting this move go through here, which is going to be a Draco Media, allowing me to swap into my own Mewtwo, forcing the opponent to swap out because I don't want to have the debuff onto them, but I can just go for the Shadow Ball immediately. The opponent knows that, going to shield, but I have a fast move advantage because my Pokemon basically went down, so I was able to get a free switch into my Mewtwo while the opponent used their switch to get into their Mewtwo, allowing me to get to another Shadow Ball before they can even do anything here. Winning me the CMP is also kind of lucky, of course. We both had Hundos here. I even had the Shundo, of course, which is really cool. But now we're gonna see the Giratina swapping in. And you're going to see me doing something interesting here. I'm going to go for the Side Strike because Shadow Ball does not do enough damage to knock them out. But also, I'm not going to throw immediately because I expect the swap out here into the Dialga, which is definitely what's going to happen here. So I can go into my Skeledirge, go for the Shadow Ball, get the easy knockout against the opponent, as well as we're going to still have pressure onto the opponent with our Disarming Voice, which we're going to be able to get so fast, which is so nice for us. Getting nearly the knockout, but one more fast move is all it takes, and our Skeledirge was able to clean up this game. Next opponent, great lead for us, but it depends on what they're going to have in the back, of course. It's going to be the Zacian, and in hindsight, I kinda regret swapping into my Skeledirge here, because I knew already what they most likely going to have in the back, but luckily they went straight for the Play Rough, which is going to be nice for me, as we're going to see right now. I can use, basically going to be able to get a shield from the opponent. I'm expecting here that they're going to go for a Wild Shot, so I'm going to use a shield, and now I should have went for the Shadow Ball, which I didn't do. I went for the Disarming Voice, which is not going to be enough to knock them out, just barely, but I can just use a shield, farm them down, realign, get some damage onto the opponent's Giratina, might be able to get a shield again, as we're going to get to another Shadow Ball here. This is gonna do a ton of damage, and we even can reach a Disarming Voice here right now, which is going to get even more damage onto them, or the shield, and we're gonna get actually the shield, as I'm going to be forced to stay in here sadly, but I can now swap into my Dialga. They're gonna go for a charge move. I expect them to have the Xerneas in the back, which is going to be okay for us though, because we're still going to have our Mewtwo. And here's the thing. Our Mewtwo is, I think, going to be able to knock them out in time. They're going to go for one Moonblast first, but I should be able to CMP tie onto the opponent's Close Combat, which is going to come in soon. But this is going to be a little bit of a tough one, because now the opponent's Giratina is going to get a ton of energy against me, and this can kind of bite me a little bit afterwards, as I now have to hope that they can fully farm them down with my Dialga. Of course, this is going to be a Shadow Ball, and it's going to do a ton of damage, but can we farm them down in time? We're gonna die again on 1 HP there onto the opponent, which is really unlucky. 1 HP was all it took for us to win this game, but we didn't get this through. So here we're gonna see an interesting play by the opponent. They just decide to go for an extra fast move here, which I did not really expect, but I'm gonna be able to go for Draco Media, gonna get the shield advantage. They even go for another one. They're at 120 energy, I think, at this point, so great job there. But we're going to be able to shield up the Sacred Fire, as they're going to have another charge move stored here right now, but I can still outspeed the opponent to a Side Strike, which is gonna get another shield from the opponent, allowing me to use a shield against them as well, as they're gonna go for a Brave Bird here, dropping their defense, but I can outspeed them here for sure, as the opponent going to catch the move onto the Metagross. This was an obvious catch here for sure, but I couldn't really risk it, because if I don't go for my Side Strike immediately, the opponent going to be able to go for their Brave Bird or their Sacred Fire to knock me out. So I was forced to go for my charge move there. I don't think it was really a misplay, but of course, kinda great play by the opponent, as I'm going to be able to swap out into my Dialga before the opponent can get to a Breaking Swipe here, which is going to be amazing for us, as we're gonna get the opponent insanely low. And also, what we can see, it is going to knock us out. We can now get a full farm down with our Skeledirge. They're going to swap out into their Ho-Oh, but Skeledirge is quite bulky, way bulkier than a Chandelure, which is going to be nice, as we can now take a move here from the opponent's Ho-Oh. Also, getting now the knockout with the Disarming Voice, allowing me to get some damage onto the opponent's Rayquaza, but it's not going to be enough, as now Mewtwo, can it survive this move here right now? It does, but can we knock them out? We can, just with a few HP left. One turn before we would have got knocked out, and this was such a nice game, as we can now move on into the final game of today's video. This is going to be definitely an interesting one, as we're going to see a lead of Mamoswine. I swapped out immediately, because I expected at least that my Skeledirge is going to have a great time here, but let's take a look what we can do with our Mewtwo first, as the opponent decides to swap into their Dialga. Great play by them, but I am still going to be able to go for a Shadow Ball afterwards, and I can even fake a potential Focus Blast. So, let's see if this is going to work out. Do they use a shield here? They do not, but they're gonna go so low that I feel like it's worth it to use a shield here. And I'm honestly thinking that this was definitely the right play, as now I can still go for a Side Strike against the opponent's Mamoswine, which is going to swap back in, but I'm going to be having a double weakness against the ground typing in the back, which is going to be a little bit of a tough one, but I can at least swap out into my Skeledirge, which doesn't take any damage at all from the fast move, but now the high horsepower is coming through, gonna do a ton of damage, the opponent going to catch the move onto the Giratina, which I found interesting, and it does not help them at all. Because like this, I can just swap into my Dialga. They're going to be able to go for a Shadow Ball here most likely. But I'm going to be so close to an Iron Head, which is going to be all it takes to knock out the opponent's Mamoswine, as you're going to see that one coming in. And that's going to be it for today's video. Skeledirge was a ton of fun to play in the Master League, and definitely cool team here to try out if you have the Pokemon for it. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like. See you then. Bye bye.